What's up, YouTube? It's Animators Animations here. Today we're going to be playing a few games of chess, and I'm going to be commentating over my moves and stuff. If you guys want to support the channel, please leave a like, subscribe, and if you guys have any tips of like editing software I should use, or like how to get better at chess or any of that as such, please leave it in the comment section below. Anyways, I hope everyone continues to have an amazing day, and please enjoy this video. Alrighty, so in this game right here, I open up with a 4 knights opening to try to gain some development. I'm not that good at openings per se. And when he plays that I take, and he takes to do queen to queen. Once he does queen to queen, I try to block the pawn from getting any more development and try to get the knight out to just have to just get it out so I can possibly do a fork in the future. So, and then I moved the pawn to block the other pawn before so that I could play knight to d5 to try to get my knight in a good position. And then as I continue to move the pawn forwards, I'm trying to think of a way that I could get the knight there to fork him so I could take his rook. As you can see, it is not working quite towards my favor currently. This game, I'd say, was one of my more difficult games. And then I was able to move the knight to d5, so that in turns gives me the upper hand, because I can attack pretty much in a lot of pretty important squares, in my opinion. And then as he opens that up for his rook, I open mine up to try to almost pin his king from moving anywhere. But since he moves the knight over there, I just take to try to get a best. Then as he moves his bishop back, I'm thinking about a move to make. So I just thought that would be the best one, because I'm trying to, again, get his bishop out the way so I could try to do that fork. And then he puts me in check. I think about moves I can make, and I just decide to move back, because in my opinion, I don't think he's going to mate me in the next few turns. And then I notice the knight, how it's coming closer, and if I'm not careful, that knight could get itself in a position where it could attack my other rook, and I don't really like that per se. So as he moves his bishop, I move my bishop back so that way I could attack his other bishop. But since he's attacking my rook, I have to move my rook back, or else he's going to take it, because he's blocking me being able to take it with his other bishop that's on the white squares. So then as I move the knight up, I'm trying to fork him within the next move. So he pulls back, pushes me in check, and defends his bishop. So I just take his other bishop. And then when he moves his knight over there, I do that and I fork him so that I can take his rook, and I could set myself up for a bunch of development that could lead to checkmate. Obviously, since he did not take my knight, I just moved the knight up to place him in check. And then now he finally notices my knight, and he takes my knight with his rook. So then I respond with taking his other knight. And I keep my rook in the same place to prevent him from placing me in check. And I move it backwards so I can continue to defend my king. And then now I start thinking of ways that I could put him in checkmate, since it's mid to end game, I believe. So then I move my king over to try to take his rook. Obviously, that does not work. So what I do is I move the rook up into check. I move it up one more square so I could start taking a few of his pawns, like he's taking a bunch of mine. And then here's a cycle of checks. When the cycle of checks are occurring, I'm trying to think of a way to, I believe it's called laddering him, to try to eventually get mate. And since his rook's right there, it is becoming quite difficult for me to try to mate him. So what I just do is I move rook and I take his other rook. But then he takes my rook, so then I have to be really smart about this because I'm running low on time. And when I run low on time, I have to make all of my moves, try to be as precise and as fast as I can. Which normally if somebody makes me run low on time, it's one of my downfalls when it comes to chess in general. So it's one thing I'm trying to get better at. But I just respond to most of his moves right now by taking his pawns to try to get some of the quicker moves out. And then here is when I lose because of time. And this match resulted in, for me, a loss. And for me, dropping down to 302 elo. Alrighty, so in this game right here, I try to respond with the same thing I did last game and try to play the 4 knights opening, which he immediately gets his queen out and his bishop out. So that tells me that he's going to try to make this game a quick mate. So I'm trying to think of ways to try to counter that. For me, when I try to counter this, it either goes really good for me or really bad for me, resulting in me getting checkmated a bunch. So I move my bishop to try to perform an equal exchange of bishops over here to try to prevent that mate that I think he was trying to do. So as I move the pawn forward, he already took it, but what I was trying to do is make it so the pawn was attacking the queen and the knight, which right here I just played, I just moved the pawn forward to try to take that middle space. And then I castle right here to attack the pawn with 2 sides. So that way I can move the rook up, or I can move the knight there without it being captured by the queen because it's being defended. And then right here I'm attacking his queen and another pawn. And then when I move the knight over here, I'm trying to get the knight over there so it's a check. And then when I place him in check, I continue to go forward and try to push. I keep trying to think of ways to try to push him back into those squares behind him so I can get a quick and easy mate. So right over here, I try to think of ways to try to get him in that mate. So I just end up moving my queen forward to defend the knight that I didn't realize that I left undefended over here. So I can just move the queen over and place him in check. And then check, check, checkity, check, check. That's pretty much what happens over here. And then his only move, I believe, is either block with a queen or castle. So this tells me I'm in a pretty good spot right now. Because if he moves the queen, I can take his queen with my knight, which I just end up taking with my rook. So when he moves up, I can try to ladder him, but I just end up taking his other rook so that it doesn't bother me in the long run. So then now I'm trying to set up that mate that I was talking about before, but I end up blundering my queen. So then now I'm trying to think of a way to come back from this, to come back from accidentally blundering my queen, since I'm of a very low elo right now. I'm a 302. So I'm not the best at chess per se, but I really do like it. I mean, I find it quite fun. It's just the predictions and stuff, that's what pretty much gets me. Because when I start thinking of one thing, I start thinking about like a whole game that this could produce. That's when chess becomes quite complicated or like difficult for me. But as I play more, I'm becoming better at it. So I'm trying to do the last thing that I said before that I was trying to do. I'm trying to cancel him off to lead to an eventual mate. But that pawn over there, his last pawn, it's becoming quite concerning, being only 3 squares away from becoming another queen. So I have to watch out for that. So then now I try to pre-move ladder, and I end up losing one of my rooks by doing that. So then that tells me I have to go on the defensive for now and try to get one of my pawns up to a queen so that I can do a quick and easy mate by using the ladder that also got me losing a rook. And then here's now where, in my opinion, it got a little bit intense because I felt that I can mate him within a few moves. And then now I have to play my cards smart. So that way I could mate him within those few moves. And then as it gets slower and slower, I ended up getting the mate, as you could see. My elo went up to 311 for this match right here. I'd say that match was pretty difficult for me, but I feel like that I made some pretty good moves, but I also made some pretty bad moves. You win some, you lose some, you know? And in this game right here, I try to open up again with a 4 knights opening, and this one responds with also getting his queen out early. So I just end up trying to attack his queen, that I could pretty much get him to an eventual loss of his queen. Because if I can get the queen out the way, and in the early game, that is a piece I really don't have to worry about. And I really don't like worrying about it. So over here, my whole thought process was to get the knight out and those good squares. This time it was to knight to e5 to try to help with attacking a bunch of squares, which he just blundered his queen. So this part ended up going really well for me. Because he blundered his queen, I took and I placed him in check. Now if I play my cards right, I could have probably mated him within the next few moves, because if I could get one of my rooks out right over here, if I got one of my rooks out by castling, which I did, that to me looked like an easy mate. So to me, I didn't see the other rook, and I kept thinking it was like mate in one. So I ended up blundering my queen doing that. And then I moved the knight back because it was getting attacked, and I didn't really know a good way to like make it come back per se. So I start thinking about ways I could use and like get him put in like check and whatnot. There's an open square right over there where he puts pawn, but it's defended by his knight, so I can't really put him in check over there. So I move a pawn up to just gain some natural development on my pawn, so I can move the knight back, and so I can have my knight defended. And then we could have had like an even trade, but now he moved his knight over there, and if I'm not careful, that would have placed me in check the next move, his next move. But I probably could have just took, if he played that move, I could have probably just took with the pawn anyways. So now I decide taking his bishop right now is the best move over here. So that way, because of its position, it's defending a lot of the middle part. And since the middle part's pretty vital, I really didn't like that. So I'm trying to wear down his defenses, I guess you could say. And then now I'm trying to get both of my rooks out and towards the end of the board by the king, so I can divert the focus over to there. And when I divert the focus over towards the other side of the board, I feel like I can try to manage my defenses and my end pretty well, since I'm running low on pieces in general. So now I didn't see a really good place that I could have moved my rook to took his knight, but I didn't see that as a pretty good move in my opinion, which now that I think about it, it would probably be the better of the moves. So I place him in check by moving my bishop up, and now since my bishop's defended, all I have to worry about is the rook that he's attacking with his king. So I move the rook and I take his knight, so that way it's defended by the bishop and whatnot, but now it's being attacked by a pawn. But since he's in check, he could have took me, but I just ended up noticing that, and I moved it backwards so it's still defended by the bishop, and I'm not being attacked by his pawn, which that could have ended up really, really bad. And now here's when I notice that I could have took his rook all this time with my bishop. So I end up doing that to try to get an easy mate. So I sacrifice that, but I try to sacrifice that bishop right there, so that way I could what's the right words? I try to sacrifice the bishop so I could take his rook, and then I moved my rook up, and I got another mate, making my elo go up to 319. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Anyways, I'll see you guys next time.